Because when the economy works for everyone, when it works for everyone, there's so much more for everyone. The individualist mentality that we have that keeps this racist system in place, that keeps the economy stagnant, that keeps things a certain way, doesn't work. It is not beneficial, even to those who think they are winning. It is not beneficial,
Mm.
right? At some point, it will fall apart.
Mm.
And I'm hoping we don't get there before we figure it out and fix
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes, I get it. I mean, to some extent, it gets back to the subjectivity because I'm by no means an expert on it either. But somebody, I'm sure, could come on with an economic perspective and say, actually, let me explain why that's a problem or that's a bad thing and why it doesn't work at scale, or maybe it was unique in that situation, or innovation gets
Sure,
right. Somebody could make that argument, and then it
of
gets a little bit
course.
to that. But I think the more important point that you're making is around that. I think it comes back to that aspect of human nature of we versus I, right? That whole mentality. And I it's I think for some people it's a leap of faith. They feel like, and maybe I do to an extent too, if I'm being cynical, it's a leap of faith that actually that is the better way. That if we worry about we, I will be better off. And I think that's an implicit assumption because I think it's very hard, if not impossible, for humans to do something that is net negative for them. If it's going to make my life, my family's life net worse off, it's almost impossible for me to do that thing. Those are like the great acts of heroism throughout history where people truly sacrifice, right? It doesn't come back and benefit them in some way. And
Right.
if can we get people to take that leap of faith? And should we? Like, is there something to be said that this is just human nature? Obviously, racism is horrific. I wish it never existed. I wish lots of things didn't exist in the world. But are we doomed as a human race to just be like, but unfortunately, that's the way it is? Because although there's a theory that says we're better off if we all do it together and we all look out for each other, we're never going to get people to believe that at scale.
I don't know. Are we not?
I don't know.
I
What do you
mean,
think? What's your view?
you
Do you
know,
feel like we're
I
progressing in the right direction?
I feel like we take steps forward and then we take steps back.
Mm.
I feel like people want to hear it and then people get tired of hearing it.
Mm.
And the problem with getting tired of hearing it is that that doesn't make it go away. That's
That's
like,
right.
that's like sweeping the dirt under the rug. Is it gone? No, it's just under the rug.
Well,
And
it's
after a
self-serving
while,
again, right? For the people
right?
that don't want to change it anyway, it's self-serving
Right.
again. I don't want to have to be facing that. Like,
Sure.
yeah,
That's exactly right.
yeah.
But I do think that it is more beneficial for us to dismantle it.
Mm.
And, we often think, what's in it for me? That's how we're socialized to think. What's in it for me? What's in it for me? Whenever there's a marketing campaign, whenever you're thinking about trying to get someone to do something, what's in it for them? It's important to tell them what's in it for them. But there is an altruistic uh, benefit, even if there's never a tangible benefit to doing the right thing.
So why do we get here then, though? Right? So what you're saying is that I mentality, individualistic, is socialized. It's not the natural state of humans, right? I think is what you're saying to an extent. And I ask this genuinely. I'm not
Yeah,
implying.
yeah.
How did
No,
we
it's
get?
fine.
Why did we get here then? Wasn't it natural human behavior that evolved over time that led us to this place of like us versus them and looking out for myself and continuing this system? Like, there's an argument to be made that we naturally, over the course of human evolution, got here. So it
Is
was in fact inevitable.
is it a natural
I don't know.
evolution though?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go.
Considering that considering that race is a social construct, and considering that
Yeah.
that enslavement of human beings was a social construct,
But
that
that
this
was
was,
created by humans, right? So I agree with you
yes, it
completely.
was, yes. But
Totally
I
horrible.
I believe, so there was something that I've read and I really took it to heart years ago, and that is that we, even as human beings, no matter what it is that we're doing, we have to convince ourselves that it's okay. We
Hmm.
have to convince ourselves
The
that
math
it
doesn't
is
check out.
the right thing, but that it is okay to do.
Mm.
Therefore, in order to convince a whole society that it is okay to purchase and enslave human beings simply because they look different than you do, there had to be a way for people to do that, right? There had to be there. It wasn't. I don't think it was innate or that it. People didn't look at them and say, "Oh my gosh, we have to enslave people because they are
Yes.
black."
Yes.
Someone had to convince them.
Yes.
Oh,
So
you know
so
what?
why
They're
did that
not a human. They are you three-fifths of a
three-fifths of
human.
yeah, we're not human.
They're savages. We need to we they're savages. They're unintelligent.
But why did that
They are
person do that? I'm getting
because
to that person. Was it
oh
human nature
sure,
for
that
them?
person
Was
they
that person or
was
that
going
group,
to
whoever it
benefit.
was,
They
right?
were going
Is
to
that the
benefit.
human nature? Is that the natural evolution where and this is what scares me the most. And this is where I think you're right, right? Let me say the positive first, then I'll say what scares me. I think your view, it's almost like an evolution of human nature. Like we're evolving to be better, to think about the we versus the I. And the way we do that is exactly what you're saying. We challenge ourselves to find our truth. Back to what we said before. It should feel unnatural at times because
Right.
our natural human nature, it's a gravitational force that pulls us towards our own benefit, thinking of ourselves. To fix that, we have to kind of challenge ourselves and test ourselves. So I think that's right. The cynical view, though, the scared view that I have is exactly the history you're saying. We got to a point in history where a group of people, however it was able to convince society, at least Western society, although slavery existed in other societies, that it's okay to enslave these people, to beat these people, to rape these people, to treat them like just dirt on your shoe. And people went along with it. The fact that human nature allowed us to even get to that point horrifies me. And it gives me a cynical view that like there was a natural evolution that got us there. And it's going to take something unnatural for us to break it. So that's where I worry when it says like, I guess I'm cynical of human nature as a whole. But
I
let me
don't
stop
blame
there and
you.
see. Yeah.
I don't blame you not one bit for being cynical of human nature. However, I feel for me, especially, you have kids, I have kids, for our children's sake,
Mm.
that it is something that can be overcome. I feel like I have to believe that. Otherwise, I mean,
The hell are we doing?
the alternative is not pretty.
Yes, yes, yes. And I think that as we're coming towards the end here, I think that um, the reason for that optimism is because, as you said, well, let me say it this way. The importance of the work you're doing and that value of being true to ourselves is that this is such a hard problem to solve. And I mean that in the spirit of what we're talking about. This might be so deep rooted in our human nature, right? From an evolutionary perspective, whatever, that for us to fix it, if we're not completely honest, if we're not getting into the weeds of this and addressing all the ugly aspects of it, the ones that are obvious and glaring, the ones that are more hidden, the ones that don't make us feel good, if we don't account for all of that, we're not going to solve this problem, right? So it can't be a
Right.
superficial solution. It can't be, as I know you've said, colorblind, right? Don't see color. It's simple as that. It can't be as simple as
No.
just put these new rules in place and everybody will just conform. It can't be
No.
just, I believe in people and I hope they're going to be better. It has to be where you're coming from. Do the work. We all have to do the
Yes.
work, and it has to feel almost impossible, that work, because if it doesn't, then you're not doing it right. Right? Like that's, I
Yes.
think, where your optimism comes from. And that makes me feel better.
Absolutely.